You're listening to Theater and College Hoops. I'm Subi. Alongside me is the Shark. We're brought to you by Dash Radio and the Barn Burner Podcast Network. Go subscribe on whichever device you use. I actually heard Jarrell Martin, former power forward for LSU a couple years back. He subscribes, so you should as well. I had to give a quick shout out to LSU, reference one of their better players of the past decade, obviously national champion LSU Tigers in football. I severely doubt that's going to happen with the Will Wade team that they have, but Jarrell Martin subscribes, so you should as well. Check out the website at thebarnburner.com. That's the-barnburner.com. And make sure to follow us on Twitter at CBB Theater. You should also follow me at Subi232 to find out where the Theat is. And make sure to follow the Shark at the_Shark_BB. Let's open these curtains. All right, you done with BC? BC basketball, you done?
I am very done with BC basketball. And I want to go back to Jarrell Martin in a second, but if I'm going to take the podium at this point, then I'll take the podium on BC. I am so done with this team. They sneak a win against UVA midweek last week. You know, they get to 3-1 in the ACC conference. Their out-of-conference record sucks. So, like, people that have actually watched the team play, you know they're terrible, but somehow they're 3-1 in the ACC. So there's a little bit of hope just sitting in there. And you know that you have a game at home in Conti Forum in the raucous Chestnut Hill on Saturday coming up at home.
Was it raucous?
I'm being sarcastic, but just roll with me here. So Saturday in Chestnut Hill, it's a night game. You're playing Georgia Tech. All right, Georgia Tech. They get blown out at home. Like, you want people to respect you, and it wasn't just this. Like, they are begging fans to go to the game. They're literally giving fans 2 tickets for one. Like, they're just handing out tickets. They're giving people that didn't even go to BC, say you went to UMass, say you went to Suffolk Knights, say you went to Tufts, say you went anywhere. If you just paid $5, you could get into the Conti Forum and watch this game. BC is 3-1 at the top of the conference, and they blow it. They get blown out at home. So I am so done with this team. They haven't made the tournament since 2008. Right? 2008. So it's 2020. Like, if let's say, hypothetically, I was a freshman when they made the tournament last. Hypothetically speaking, let's say, I impregnated someone that evening. That means that night, that kid's a 12-year-old now. He's a 12-year-old. You know, he's going to the middle school dance. He's going to the semi-formal. I'm giving him the speech. I'm helping him tie his tie. That's how long it's been. And we've stunk the whole time. We haven't even come close. We're just sitting. There's only been 2 coaches. Steve Donahue. Remember him?
Of course I do.
Remember that stiff? He was one of them.
He's back in the Ivy League now.
Jimmy Christian is still coaching this team. I can't even grasp it. We grabbed Jim Christian out of some bum school in the MAC. What are we hiring a MAC coach in the first place for? And we keep bringing him back. Let's run it back again. Let's get blown out here, blown out there. I can't even – his buyout's not even that bad. Just get rid of him right now. Throw everything you got at Thad Matta, and let's do this thing. Because we got Jeff Hafley running the football side. We got a coach there. Let's go get Thad.
I feel like I just picked a scab and the blood just came gushing out.
I didn't even prep that either. And it's like – I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of just thinking, oh, you know what? We're young. Look at Kai Bowman. He's in the league. Look at don't forget about Jerome Robinson, lottery pick. Like,
he might be a bust. Yeah, he's a bust.
It's just like we've had these Olivier Hanlon. He can play. We've had so many different versions of this where we just stink year in and year out. And
well, so the reason I brought it up, just for the listener, just BC, that is that they put up 13 points in the first half against Syracuse, on their way to getting their ass beat. But I mean, it's not like it just came out of the blue. Everyone pretty much knows BC basketball sucks, and I didn't want him to think that this was just an arbitrary question that I asked to lead the show. 13 points and a half is just putrid.
Thanks. I know it is. Why are we even talking about this? Like, I am so far off the bandwagon at this point. I don't even want to come close to the bandwagon. Get me as far away as possible from this team. And there needs to be changes done. I don't know what the hell we're waiting for. But anyways, go back to your initial point, LSU, Jarrell Martin, good squad there. I almost actually plugged from that team, LSU, that whenever they were 13 or 14, Jordan Mickey, Didn't really pan out too well for the Celtics, but the real guy I wanted to point to, Keith Hornsby. Remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
Tough.
Was this the year before Ben Simmons came into Baton Rouge?
Yeah, because the Martin and Mickey were the two guys that they ran the offense pretty much. That was all they had, and they were pretty good too because they had Mickey and Hickey. They had the small little point guard too that went to Oklahoma State afterwards. Shout out Hotard if you're still listening to this. Big LSU guy actually was in New Orleans for their for the national championship. I was telling him this. I don't know. Say you're an LSU fan. Say you go to the game. Say you're in New Orleans. Is it possible to have a better night than that?
No.
Will you ever have a better night? I don't think you can.
Well, and they've been able to do it 3 times over the past 13 years.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you're at the right age.
I should say, but
you're in the right age of your life. Like you're old enough and you got money you can actually spend, and it's in a city that all of the fans are going to be there, and it's an incredible win. It's the greatest team in college football, arguably ever.
You can argue. I'll give you arguably. I still, for some reason, I shouldn't say for some reason. I'll still take the 0-1 Hurricanes. That team fucked, especially with the amount of professionals that they had on that team. BC almost beat them that year if it weren't for Ed Reed, actually. So there you go. This comes full circle.
I was at that game too. But all I know is if I was in New Orleans that night, I just would have been pounding bourbon. Also, a little warehouse district. Don't sleep on the warehouse district. Get on Tchoupitoulas, head over to Lucy's, have a good time in New Orleans. I love that town.
Well, we'll be there in a couple months, actually, for our friend's wedding. That being said, though, I want to revert back one more time to Jim Christian, because the episode that you were absent for last week was right up your wheelhouse. All the teams that you've put your fingerprints on, that you've laid claim to, they won. They were doing well. BC, this was right after the Virginia game. And Taylor and I had a discussion about Jim Christian's future. I basically said, if he doesn't make the tournament, I think he's done at BC. And I spoke on behalf of you saying that I think Christian, I spoke on behalf of you and saying that I'm pretty sure the Shark wants him gone yesterday. You just reiterated that, right?
I don't think there's any BC fan out there that thinks he should still be coaching the team. I think this is the year he's canned as well. What the hell is Taylor talking about? Why would we want this guy? What's he ever done? It's the worst resume I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I think he wanted to reference your standard as a basketball program with BC. I was trying to tell him, look,
a perennial Big East powerhouse in the early 2000s, winning the ACC in their first year that they were there. I don't know, it's pretty good. Why don't you culture yourself there, Taylor?
It was a while back. You're hot today, though.
Oh, it's like people have these comments about BC basketball, like we're a bunch of scrubs. The ACC wanted Boston College. All right, it wasn't just like we walked into a party that we weren't invited to. We were recruited to go there because we were running the Big East. Troy Bell getting his number retired soon. Craig Smith, Jared Dudley, all those guys, they were dominating the Big East. They'd go in anywhere.
Look, I defended your honor. I understand, Father.
Like the reason it all fell apart was like Al Skinner just, he hit a certain age where he's like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And the team kind of just sucked. And we limped into the tournament in 08, 09. We had Tyrese Rice. We had just kind of limping around at that point. And then we died with Donahue. Donahue came in and
those Donahue years were incredible. I mean, and he got the job strictly because of that Sweet 16 Cornell run.
Oh, absolutely. And, he's at Penn right now. He's actually doing all right. But Christian, I want to stop talking about him, but you're making me think of all these different things I can't stand about him. He wears, all right, so he's on the sidelines, right? His suits and his wardrobe is just so disgusting. Like, have some pride in the way you look. He wears white tees underneath his collared shirts, and they're like wrinkled neck white tees, so he just looks like a slob. What's the dating commercial right now where the guy with the V-neck and his collar is just completely shriveled down?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you guys just that's Jim Christian on the sideline, and he'll wear a gray blazer with black. I can't even think. I'm not a very well dressed man myself, so I don't even know what I'm saying right now. But it doesn't match. It looks terrible, and he sucks as a coach.
I agree. Yeah, he does. There's not much else to say about that. Let's talk about last Saturday, though, because I wanted to go on this endeavor. I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to tweet out every single Division I basketball game wherever there was theater. And that took a lot of prep time. What it meant was going on to the ESPN Score app and looking at every single game. And this was the first time I decided to do all Division I, and it was on a Saturday. And And I should have known that like every single fucking team plays on a Saturday. And what I decided to do was look up, not only just tweet theater in blank, but also look up each team's hashtag. So that's not necessarily just saying, hashtag Boston College. I'm sure BC has some sort of ridiculous hashtag. And it was very arduous, a lot of hard work, but I was able to stumble upon some gems. And some of these social media guys, the teams themselves, maybe they give themselves these hashtags to fire themselves up, to use as a rallying cry. But some of them are just so outrageous and so good that I want to present them to you. And I think what we should do is discuss which one of these five. I have 5 here. Which of these 5 are the best? So I'm going to start first with North Alabama. Their hashtag is stalk and ambush. Kind of gives off a little bit of a rapey vibe. Troy, take the stairs. And there's a full quote from the head coach that led to this hashtag, and it's Scott Cross. He's the head coach, and he says, if there is a flight of stairs and an elevator right there, you go up the stairs. There's no reason to wait 30 seconds for an elevator when you could be moving your feet. Those who take the elevator are looking for shortcuts, and at this level, there is no room for shortcuts. Incredible coming from a guy who coaches Troy basketball at this level. I mean, yeah, he's at the D1 level, but take the stairs. Don't ever take the elevators. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy even went a step further and like just had all the elevators in the facility on campus. Just shortcut.
He clearly subscribes to the opposite theory of Winston Churchill, who famously said, why stand when you can sit, or always sit when you can stand, or vice versa, whatever it is. So Scott Cross clearly doesn't look up to the great prime minister there.
But see, the thing is, I feel like Scott Cross, and I'm only basing this off of the one quote that I just said and his mantra of take the stairs. He feels like a quote guy. He is one of those guys that in the locker room, in meeting rooms, he has absurd and useless, non-pertinent quotes plastered all over the wall.
Like a PJ Fleck.
Yeah, but I mean, that resulted in PJ Fleck going from Western Michigan to Minnesota to winning whatever big-time bowl. I mean, he's got results to prove it. But Scott Cross, on the other hand, is in Troy. But the point I'm making is I feel like
I like take the stairs.
I like take the stairs too, but I think it's hysterical because you bring up Winston Churchill. I almost guarantee he's quoted Winston Churchill at some point in his coaching career.
He does probably have that in his arsenal, but I like to envision conversations between guys like PJ Fleck and a guy like this Scott Cross guy where, they're just meeting for the first time and they probably just communicate entirely in cliches and corny little catchphrases, where if you were a neutral observer, like some guy just watching that conversation, you would have no clue what the hell they're talking about.
Off the top of my head, it reminds me of the Austin Powers scene where he finds his dad shagging 2 girls and then they just talk in like their British colloquialisms.
Yeah, basically talking gypsy amongst each other like Tommy Shelby would do on Peaky Blinders and every once in a while.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So take the stairs for Troy, stalk and ambush at North Alabama. This one's right up your wheelhouse because your personal mantra is for, I don't know, the past 10 years has been chop wood. Idaho State has saw wood.
Hate it. I like there's you told me this one beforehand. Why would you do saw wood when you can do chop wood? And the only reason I can think of is they're trying to just differentiate themselves from the greats like Jack Del Rio and Greg Schiano and the Shark who live by chopping wood. So you want to saw wood? I mean, why saw it when you can chop? There's nothing more metaphorically built into working harder than taking a nice axe and chopping wood and looking at your results as it happened in one big swoop, or you got to work your ass off to chop that wood. In this case, you're just sawing at it. I mean, come on. Weak work.
So that's my question. I've never chopped wood or sawed wood ever. But is this kind of like the take the stairs mantra? Is sawing wood easier than chopping?
I would say so. Chopping wood's more of a masculine, manly type thing. I guess taking the stairs would be the corporate white collar version of chopping wood for the blue collar guy out in the woods. I've chopped wood with the chief. We did it out in the woods in East Tennessee back in the day. We used to do that to kind of clear our head, get ready for a big week. You go out there, you chop some wood, you have some conversation, you get after it.
Hang on, that wasn't a like team building mandatory activity? You guys literally for an activity to relieve some stress chopped wood?
Yeah, it was our crew. We'd get out there, have to reset, get back to neutral. We'd go out to the woods. We had a guy that we were connected with. We'd go out, we'd help him out with some work around his compound. And one of those activities was chopping wood. So we all chopped wood. If you met any of us, Chief, me, any, like who else contributes? Ziggy, he contributes.
Logue.
Ziggy, Logue contributes. All those guys, we've all chopped wood.
I was just throwing a dip next time. But all right, saw wood. We know your stance there. Austin Peay. I'm sure some people can imagine where this is going, but I just think it's hysterical. It's let's go Peay. Simple. 5th grade elementary humor. Is this what your generation considers humor, Oscar Wilde? Yes, it is.
Great referee to Not Another Teen Movie right there. Hopefully whoever's listening can pick up on that one right there. The guy that's speaking in the class and they fall through the ceiling on the toilet. You know the scene I'm talking about? Oscar Wilde, good. But yeah, let's go Peay. That's terrible. How is it? We're out here we're supposed to be winning basketball games, not trying to get cheap laughs. All right.
So got a cheap laugh from me.
But again, we're not aspiring comedians here. We're trying to be a 15 seed and take off someone at the top line this year. All right, Austin Peay. So let's stop making jokes and let's figure out how to run an offense.
Last but not least, up in Berkeley, Cal, theirs is hashtag invest in attack. I just found this funny because I don't know who invests before they attack. Like it's plan and attack or get set and attack. Something a little bit more aggressive than invest in attack. But another reason why this was so funny is because it's so fitting. I mean, just the thought of investing, it's like a meticulous word for the students, and it's so appropriate for the Cal Bear students.
Yeah, you got to play to the crowd right there. So the crowd's like, oh, investment. Now that you put it this way, maybe I will come out to the game this weekend and watch them beat Washington without Quad A Green. Maybe I will invest in this team because anything that looks like something that can provide some upside, and it could be a venture capitalist in this team, whatever. They're playing to their environment, they're playing to their demographic, and I kind of like it.
So let me get your best hashtag out of all these 5. Stalk and ambush. Terrible. Take the stairs.
Hate it.
Take the stairs. You said you like take the stairs.
It's just like too. I would like take the stairs if I was. Like joining a mid-size company in a mid-size city. I'd like take the stairs, and my CEO was like a former Division 2/3 football player, and I was some mid-level associate. I'd be like, I'd take the stairs. I could listen to this guy, but at the Division 1 level, come on, don't like.
Saw wood. Let's go Peay. Invest in attack.
I'm gonna go with invest in attack because it's the one that fits the environment better than anyone else. Let's go Peay. I mean, come on. Let's mature it up a little bit here, right? This is Division 1.
The answer here is take the stairs, especially because of the explanation that we got. Now, I'm sure the other 4 had explanations, but take the stairs is number 1 because it's just everyone knows the term football guy. This is just him. There's no such thing as a basketball guy. I try and make that case. It's if you say someone's a basketball guy, that's pretty much a cry for like my sport, like my sport. Scott Cross is trying so hard to be a basketball guy, and that's why I find the great humor in it. Coming in right behind them at number 2 is North Alabama with Stalk and Ambush, but again, just a little too rapey for my liking. So there were just some hilarious hashtags, and I don't know if I'll be looking at those throughout the rest of the year, but I did want to get some of the best ones that came across my mind.
Oh, like take the stairs. It's like advice you would give to someone in a nursing home, or someone coming off a work-related injury.
It's the exact opposite advice you'd give someone in a nursing home.
Well, no, you want to stay active. Take the stairs if you can. The people in the nursing homes, they get wheeled around everywhere. But every once in a while, if you take the stairs, it could be good for the heart. It could be good for the, the legs, for the muscles, get them moving. Take the stairs. I'm with it if we're there. But
that's how you end up with a patient in the front of Happy Gilmore's car just screaming, "Get me out of here." You're the Ben Stiller of nursing care managers.
To be honest, I kind of liked his approach in that nursing home.
Ran a tight ship.
Yeah, he did. So,
did you also see last Saturday the St. John's Davidson game by chance that went to overtime?
Yeah, the fat guy with the 3.
Unbelievable shot. I think that's going to be the best shot we see all year. I think we climaxed last Saturday with Ryan Daly hitting one of the most absurd shots you'll ever see to force overtime in Davidson. Davidson ended up winning, but St. John's, this short, thick point guard, Ryan Daly, or St. Joe's, excuse me. He kind of reminds me of Sean Astin, right? The guy from The Lord of the Rings. He's also Rudy.
Yeah.
He's also the brother in 50 First Dates with the lisp. Kind of reminded me of Sean Astin. And about 3 minutes before he hit that ridiculous shot, I tweeted, "Who's this, short, stocky, compact, nougat-filled point guard for St. John's?" 2 minutes later, he's coming down with 1 foot behind the 3-point line. It was almost like that Patrick Mahomes touchdown to Travis Kelce, where his 1 foot was dragging behind the line of scrimmage. This is exactly what Ryan Daly did, except he flung it towards the hoop, hit it, and forced overtime. Truly one of the best shots I think we'll see all year.
Do you think it was intentional? Do you think he kind of staggered his feet like that? Because I've watched it a million times, and he leaps off 1 foot. I think it's his left foot prior to actually releasing it with the one-handed shot. I like to believe in the savviness of some guys, but I don't know. I'm going to err on the side of it being intentional.
Absolutely was intentional. The presence of mind. Announcers love saying that shit. The presence of mind to keep your foot behind the 3-point line. And actually the initial reaction was, and the initial call was that they waved it off. And so I think the reaction from the entire bench and even Daly was like, "Oh shit. Well, gave it a good effort. Ball went in, but obviously my foot was on the line." And then they looked at it. Incredible change of events.
Well, he deserves a lot of. I mean, he's not just some scrub out there either.
He's good. He's their best player.
Yeah, he's by far their best player. He's averaging, almost 28 rebounds for a 6'5" guy and 4.5 assists. And at the time of us recording this right now, St. Joe's, who's 3-13 this year, is actually beating URI, the team favorite of a recurring guest, Scarred, who I'm upset with about not giving us the information that Jeff Dowden was not going to play prior to this start of this game. So Ryan Daly, he's a pest. He's one of those guys. We all know him, the Tom Coverdales of the world that you just don't want to see on the other side. Brad Davison is going to be one of those guys in the tournament this year as well. And I know I'm just listing stocky white guys, and I'm not trying to play into that, but hey, sorry.
No, I kind of like this rabbit hole. Who else we got? Jerry McNamara?
No.
Is he stocky?
Jerry was quick. I mean, Keith Hornsby. Shout out Keith Hornsby. Is pretty stocky. Yeah. Thick. Big shots, big shot hitters. But yeah, I know I tweeted, I'm not going to do it again right now. Wisconsin, they're going to make the Sweet 16, and Brad Davison is going to be a thorn. Just a little thorn that you just can't get out.
That sequence that he had against Maryland.
Oh, God.
I mean, that was perfect. That was perfect Turgeon, actually. And it was also perfect white guy for Wisconsin making incredible plays. So if you didn't see that, Maryland has the ball up 1 with, I think, 6 seconds left or maybe 10 seconds left. And they're inbounding under their own hoop. And they come out of a timeout. Maryland turns it over. They threw it in bounds. Brad Davison got a piece of it. And then with the inbounder still out of bounds, Davidson pushes the ball to him, and it's off the Maryland guy, Wisconsin's ball. To produce his next act, Brad Davison comes off of a basic screen and hits a 3-point shot to give Wisconsin the lead and end up winning the game. Obviously, that was a great play from Davidson, great 2 plays. But if that doesn't encapsulate Mark Turgeon's tenure at Maryland, I don't know what those 2 plays. I truly don't think that he drew up a good inbounds play at all for his players. And then right after that, do his players know to stay with the man off the pick? Do they know to switch? It was such a meltdown, and Maryland cannot win on the road. Those are your boys. I'd like to point that out. Your boys.
They're still my boys. No Big Ten team can win on the road this year. Open your eyes. Literally, no Big Ten team can win on the road. Can you?
I don't know. Every single Big Ten team's schedule.
That's a big theme this year. No, none of them can win. Maryland, I still like them a lot. I like that team. I think Turgeon, this is going to be the year for him to break through from beyond the Sweet 16. I'm thinking that team, if they get the right path, I kind of like it. I like Jeff Smith. I like Cowan. I like Ayala. I like Wiggins. I just like that team. So I don't know. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I thought they played pretty damn well in Madison. It's not easy to do that. I mean, all you got to do is look at the other teams in the Big Ten. They can't win anywhere. Michigan State got pounded by Purdue. Michigan got pounded by Minnesota. Like, people
I think Michigan
lose.
stinks, yeah.
Yeah, people are losing left and right. So for Maryland to go into Madison and probably should have won that game, I like it. I like that team.
Well, I don't. I think Mark Turgeon's just the epitome of.
You're an idiot. Like,
I'm not.
You keep getting proven wrong.
No,
like,
see, that's incorrect.
Well,
I got Illinois and
you got like the Pitt. Like, everything that you touch turns to poop. Every team that you crown,
they're winning games.
Crap. But they're that. Okay.
I mean, first of all, I declared Seton Hall as the Big East winner back in August.
You didn't go as far as I went.
No, I'm not going to go as far as you are.
I need you to acknowledge that I am the guy. Like, if we're all on a little caravan, if we're bar crawling right now, I'm the one out at the front of the bar crawl that has my phone out directing us where we're going to go. When are we going to turn left? When are we going to turn right? You're just following behind me. It's me and Miles Powell and Kevin Willard. We're at the front of that bar crawl.
Yeah, see, I'm not with Kevin Willard. If I'm on that bar crawl, I'll go into the bar, I'll dap you up, I'll say hi to Miles Powell, and I don't think I'll talk to Kevin Willard at all. Although he's coming close to making me change my mind, because that's a hell of a win that he had.
You see what he did tonight?
Yeah, he great win against Butler on the road. I agree. But back to my predictions. You're just gonna toss me under the bus about Underwood? You wanted to hop on that bandwagon 2 weeks ago.
Full disclosure, audience, I did respectfully ask when the Underwood and Illinois train. Am I accepted? Am I allowed on the train? I like the team. I love Underwood. Am I on?
Yeah, I can't deny access to people who want to get on the Underwood train. I love this team.
I'm off the Underwood train when they're playing Wisconsin and Maryland. And Michigan State, so I want to be clear about that.
Noted. All right. But Underwood has his boys ranked for the first time, I think, since 2014. Something crazy like that.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why they brought him in. Speaking of the Big Ten, though, I got a new nickname. So last week, I had a nickname for Luka Garza at Iowa, Lunch Pail Luka. This week, it's the Scissor. And that goes to Purdue's Matt Harms. Because we know who Matt Harms is. He's been on the team, I think, now for the past 3 years. He was basically behind Isaac Haas, who's just a beefier version of Matt Harms. But he is the Scissor because he just looks so sharp and pointy. And I feel like I'd get a paper cut or a really deep cut having one of his elbows bang up against me down low on the block. Matt Harms, who had a great game against Michigan State at home, the Scissor. And he's also one of those guys, he's one of those over-exuberant guys where he'll throw like a fist pump. And you got to look where he's at and where you are in relation to him. Otherwise, you're going to get hit. You're going to catch a stray elbow and you might get a black eye. Do you remember that scene last year in the tournament? He was going crazy and Carson Edwards basically just stared him down and looked at him and said, "Calm down, please."
Yeah, I was probably at the game against Tennessee. I was sitting in the upper deck. Was it that one? I mean, I hate that. I hate Harms. You have a good comparison on the Scissor. He does look very point you would never want to play pickup with, because all you have to do is just catch like a random finger and you might be bruised for about 3 weeks, because this guy plays very active. And he's kind of developing an NBA game too this year, because he can shoot a little bit, which has not been present in his game for a while. But I can't stand the guy just because of exactly what he's saying. He's hyperactive, very intense. I wish he played for my team, but can't have it.
Matt Harms, too sharp, too pointy. Other news and notes from last week, Clemson and Baylor. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Clemson and Baylor. We'll start with the Bears first, going into Lawrence, Kansas. I think they won for the first time there ever. And what a resume the Bears have now. They climbed all the way up to number 2 in the country. I personally think that they should be number 1, especially because of their resume compared to Gonzaga's. But they went into Kansas and pretty much handled them from about the 5-minute marker in the first half, 5 minutes left in the first half onward. Baylor just beat the hell out of them. And these Bears The thing that I love the most about them is that they can defend. Early on in the season, they did not have a good defense. That has changed. You go into Lawrence, Kansas, and you stifle that Kansas offense. Granted, Dotson was out and injured. I understand that.
It's a massive granted.
It's huge, but still, those are the games that teams lose to Kansas. Whenever they go into a good Kansas, they play a good Kansas team in Allen Fieldhouse. Teams, despite Kansas losing a player, still end up losing those games. Baylor exercised like 15 years of demons.
Yeah, it's easy to exercise a demon when the demon's not even playing in the game. Like Dotson's by far the most important player on Kansas's team. Don't tell me Doak. Don't tell me Doak. I know you're trying to do it right now. He's not.
I'm not telling you Doak.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it in your eyes. Like Dotson is by far the most important player. He didn't play in the freaking game. So of course,
he did come back.
The 1,700 guards that are on Baylor are going to do well in that game. So I don't get me wrong. I do think Baylor is a good team. I've liked them. And I will give you credit right here. You have been on Baylor since the start of this year. That team impressed them when they played. But this is not the best team in the country. They're not. They're just not. I think they're going to definitely be a 3 or a 2 seed when the tournament time gets here, which is actually starting to creep up on us, fellas or ladies, if you're out there. But there's not enough there. Their go-to scorer, I guess, is Butler. Yeah. Maybe. For Baylor, you need a bucket.
And they don't even have a healthy Tristan Clark, though.
I mean, I think I tweeted it out for them. I said they're deeper than a Lou Malnati's. I mean, Baylor is a deep team. So I just struggle to put them in that top echelon with the Dukes, Gonzagas, and healthy Kansases. And I know Duke lost.
Yeah. So I'm ready to put them in that echelon, actually. And so I don't think that they are the best team in the country either. But we have this discussion all the time, the difference between best team in the country and who deserves the number 1 ranked spot. And I think based on resume, based on how they handled Kansas, on the road, they deserve that number 1 spot. Kansas, I still think is the best team in the country, as a matter of fact. If you were to ask me who's going to win the title today, I would probably put my money on Kansas winning it all.
Yeah, I would kind of lean that way as well. And I don't want to get lost in the Baylor talk. The win, no doubt about it. But last week, I thought the better win that they had was going into Lubbock and beating Texas Tech. I watched that entire game from start to finish. Texas Tech at home, he was coming off a loss, and they responded and took every punch and counter punch them throughout the entire game. And Texas Tech, in that, I think it was probably on Wednesday or Tuesday night, they were getting so many absurd shots to fall. Their guy, their freshman guard, Jamius Ramsey, spelling Jamius in just an absurd way with a hell of an apostrophe in there. But he was lighting it up for Texas Tech, and Baylor was able to respond with everything. So I'm very impressed with him. Honestly, I kind of just wish Baylor still had Makai Mason 1 more year. You know, someone that just control everything, get people in the right spot if you can. Makai hit big shots, and I'm not sure. There's too many guys on Baylor. Someone needs to emerge.
I just don't think that Scott Drew has given us enough in terms of his tournament resume for me to put 100% faith into him winning a national title.
Good. He's been good in the tournament. How many
you talk about Makai Mason hitting big shots? His biggest shots came against Baylor when he was at Yale.
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of the point that I'm making.
I want to.
Didn't they lose to another Ivy at some point too?
When did Scott Drew get there? Because I have them in they made the
Scott Drew's been there. I feel like I feel like he's been there for 15 years now, 14 years.
I got him there. Oh yeah, even longer, 17 years. Holy crap! So he's in the 17 years that he's made the Elite Eight twice, 2010 and 2012, the Sweet 16 4 times. That's pretty good.
No, I agree. I think that's solid for a team that's pretty much known as a football program. Speaking of Scott Drew, how do you think Bryce Drew feels? You got your brother over there who's just I mean, is this the deal that he had to make? It's like, hey, Bryce, I'm going to let you have one of the greatest shots of all time in NCAA tournament history, but you're going to be a complete bum on the sideline, get fired at Vanderbilt after like 2 or 3 years. Meanwhile, your brother's going to have a very long career at a good basketball program who will probably love him for life. I mean, that's got to be the trade-off that Bryce Drew made, right?
I'm taking Scott Drew in that scenario every single time. Just sustainability, and plus it's one thing if Bryce was really able to enjoy it in an awesome college town, but he's a god in Valparaiso, Indiana. Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's true.
What is Bryce Drew doing right now?
I think he's doing color commentary for ESPN.
Might have to where am I that?
Bryce Drew. Yeah. But I mean, it's just funny to see the differences between those two brothers. I mean, everyone knows Bryce Drew from The Shot. And then I think I found out or learned that Scott Drew was his brother maybe 8 years ago, which is, I mean, I've been watching college basketball for quite some time. And you just mentioned that Scott Drew has been on the sideline for Baylor for 17 years. Figured that would come up. But yeah, Baylor, I think we both agree that they're a very, very solid team. Tournament time, it's going to be interesting to see their draw. I want to talk about Clemson too. Clemson with an incredible week, probably their best week under Brad Brownell ever. I'm talking strictly week. They beat Carolina in Chapel Hill for the first time ever. And then they turn around and beat Duke the day after their football team lost the national title. So they were able to give themselves a top 3 win and also give their fan base a little bit of a pick-me-up there. I actually tweeted like an asshole. You want to talk about stuff that turns to shit? This is your perfect example. Clemson was down like 6 or something to North Carolina in the waning couple minutes in Chapel Hill. I think there was a minute and a half or 2 minutes left. And everyone had said coming into the game, if this is the year or if Clemson's ever going to beat Carolina on the road, this is the year. No Cole Anthony. Roy Williams basically shits on his squad every 2 seconds, says they're a JV team. If Brad Brownell is going to do it, it's got to be now. And they were down, Clemson was, with about 2 minutes to go. And I tweeted out basically saying, does Clemson even want Brad Brownell? It's almost like a Jimmy Christian situation. I mean, they're 7-7. They suck this year too. And I'm saying, does Clemson even want him? Clemson mounts a furious comeback. They win in Chapel Hill. 2 days later, or was it a week later? I forget. No, just a couple days later. Excuse me. They're at home and they beat Duke. Clemson, they're not going to make the tournament, but they'll always have this week here in January.
I thought Brownell's reaction was way over the top. Like, it's really not that great of an accomplishment that you just did here. North Carolina is horrible. You need to win that game. You're 8-7 7-7 going into that game. It's a must win, and they're horrible. And you've been at that school for 10 years. You've made the tournament twice, and one of those was your first year there. So you're using Purnell's players. You're a terrible coach. So
I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just don't know. I forget what press conference I saw him give, but he was losing his mind about these accomplishments that he had, and he's probably doing the right thing to kind of take control of the narrative because, I referenced our objective person, kind of this neutral observer watching a conversation. Well, the neutral observer in this case is looking at Clemson and thinking, all right, Brownell's going to have to get fired at the end of this year because the production is just not there. And he's been there long enough. And 2 years ago when they made the tournament, and they played Auburn. I remember this in the first. They were a 5 seed or a 4 seed, and Auburn was the vice versa in the second round. And Clemson just pounded Auburn in the following years when Auburn went on to the Final Four. So I don't know why I just brought that up, but that's really the biggest. You want to talk about accomplishment? It was that game for Brownell a couple years ago, winning against a horrible North Carolina team and then beating Duke at home. Cool.
Well, what was his exact reaction? Like, what did he say after they beat Carolina? Didn't he say it's over? It's finally over?
Yeah, something absurd.
That's so bad. That's such a bad look.
It's over. And he's screaming it as if he's Kevin Garnett. But
It's like Steve Young. Steve Young finally winning a Super Bowl, and he says, "The monkey's off my back." I got Brad Brownell saying the same thing in the middle of January.
Yeah, Yep, it's over. You're right. That's what it is. So congrats, Brad.
Well, him and Dabo came into head coaching roles at the same time at Clemson, right? Or relatively the same time. Dabo was promoted from interim, and then they brought in Brownell.
Yeah, those two kind of went in opposite directions, didn't they?
I don't know. Well, so I'm not going to say complete opposite directions. It's more like a right angle, right? A 90-degree angle, right? So Dabo's gone straight up.
Okay. Yeah.
And Brownell's just staying level horizontally. But I mean, there's got to be no one happier about the Dabo hiring and how well he's done than Brad Brownell, because his shortcomings are completely masked by the fact that Dabo's got 2 titles there at Clemson, and probably the standard for excellence in college football.
That is true. Classic diverting attention right there away from what your program is, while all the fans care about the football team. And then would have been nice for Brownell, however you call it, if this happened in mid-February, if we did this a few weeks later, while the topic wasn't, all the upset fans coming home from New Orleans and wanting to just get some rest after the week. They do it right now, and the team is 9-7. So I think they know that they're not going too far.
You think Brownell kind of has a little brother syndrome, playing in the shadow of Dabo and Clemson football? You think after that Duke win, someone probably asked him about the football team or relating it. You think after that Duke win, he was like, we're not just a football school?
That's probably why he was hyping it up as much as he did. But to call him a little brother of Dabo Swinney is an insult to every single little brother out there in this world. He may be the trying to think of something that wouldn't be too offensive or anything. Like the youngest child of your neighbor that lives at the furthest end of the street. That's what Brad Brownell might be to Dabo Swinney. Age different, massive age difference. But
yeah, I'm sure Dabo also probably hates having to interact with him too.
Yeah.
Brad just talking shop like, all right, yeah, I mean, we're both Clemson head coaches. I mean, I think the similarities stop right there.
Yeah, Dabo, what do you think about this motto I'm preaching to the team? Take the stairs. It's going to really instill a thought process of always taking the hard way to get to the results. What do you think of that, Dabo? He would probably roll his eyes at that, like I did with your boy there. What school did that guy say?
Troy, Scott Cross. No, and Brownell definitely is the kind of guy that he sits at home when the second he heard "bring your own guts" from Dabo, he's like, "Oh fuck, I gotta bring something to the table now." He probably had some sort of knockoff, like Walmart variety version of that. So, but good for Clemson, great win, great couple wins, and good for Baylor as well. Moving on, Wichita State. Did you catch their game against UConn this past Sunday?
I did. I was actually on the UConn side of that game in terms of my picks, so that was quite a finish at the end. But Utah State, dangerous team. Greg with 3 Gs. Something about Greg's with 3 Gs and coaching basketball. They know how to do it. And Wichita State's going to be dangerous because all of their guys fouled out in overtime, yet they still kept getting easy looks at the basket, playing tough defense. Vintage Shockers team right here.
I want to correct you real quick. You said Utah State. That's our boy Wild Bill Sproat. Your other boy Greg Marshall, Wichita State.
I'm sorry about that. I hate Utah State.
Wichita State, yeah, crazy comeback from UConn. The only reason why it was a comeback and why this game was in overtime is because of how incredibly arrogant Wichita State was. If you know us, and we've discussed this plenty of times on this program, Shark, when you're up 3 and there's about 10 or less seconds left and you don't foul, you're an asshole. You're a complete asshole. You foul every single time in that scenario so that you force the opponent to go to the line and that they can't hit a 3. And Wichita State didn't do that in regulation. So the game goes to overtime. Naturally, UConn hit a 3 to tie it, goes to overtime. This is what really pissed me off with Wichita State the most. Actually, did I say Utah State just now?
I think you did. I don't know what's going
on. Fuck. But this is what pissed me off the most about the Shockers. That's what I'm just going to say to the Shockers. In overtime, they did the exact same thing. They were up 3.
I love it.
No, I hate it. It was the most arrogant thing I've ever seen from a coach and a team. They were up 3 in overtime, and they have a proof positive of this not working maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes earlier, and they still don't foul. I was so pissed.
Arrogant is the perfect way of putting it, but Greg Marshall deserves it. He's proven himself. He's proven himself to be a great in-game coach. Now, yes, you and I both agree with it, but it reminded me of just some stubborn asshole at a blackjack table. Like he's sitting on 17 and he's the last guy on the table. Or let's put him at 16 and the dealer's showing, let's call it 14. And Greg Marshall says, hit me. And it pisses everyone off. And then he does it again just to drive everyone crazy because he's proven himself. And it worked out for him. But it certainly was just the epitome of being a stubborn, this is my philosophy. I'm going to do it no matter what, even though I was just burned by it literally 5 minutes ago.
It was 100% the philosophy. It is, he quite literally doubled down. He did it once, did it a second time, because in his heart of hearts, in his coaching philosophy, in his mind, he's saying, you play it out. You play straight up defense. And he's like, you know what? If UConn hits this, then we go to a double overtime. I don't care. Like, we have a chance to clean this. I just want to see, I could see Greg Marshall doing that in the tournament just to prove a point. And at some point with almost every arrogant asshole, it's going to bite him in the ass. And I cannot wait until that day comes and he's got to sit in front of reporters post game and they ask him, hey, why didn't you foul? And he's just going to sit up there and be like, it's not my philosophy. It's not what we do here at Wichita State.
He would be even more of a dick about it. He'd respond like Popovich would, his Greg brother-in with 3 Gs. I could totally see him being one of those pricks in halftime interviews or post-game interviews, wherever you want to call it. You can just see it on his face. One other takeaway I had from that game, and it's about UConn, because I know we got a few UConn listeners. They're number 3, Alterique Gilbert, terrible. That guy, he's your point guard. He made so many losing plays at the end of that game, driving to the lane and trying to split a fancy pass, but bounce pass right in the middle of the lane as a point guard, missing his free throws at the end of the game. Can't stand that guy. And then I tweeted this as well. That whole team, everyone on UConn, untuck shirts. Tuck your shirt in, all right? Tuck your shirt in. You do the little things big, and the big things take care of themselves, all right? Write that down, Father. You do the little things big, like tucking in your shirt, making sure you look organized on the bench, having a clean bench, everybody's in unison, and the big things, like making free throws at the end of the game and avoiding turnovers, they take care of themselves. That was Danny Hurley. He's got to do something with the culture of that team right there, because they lost because of stupid, tiny mistakes. Not the untucked shirts. It's a small thing. I'm making a dumb point, but it is kind of characteristic of a team that doesn't make the right moves at the end of the game.
Well, I feel like that's all we've heard about Danny Hurley and UConn is the culture's changed. It's just the talent needs to come in. And once they start playing together, and I mean, this is only Hurley's second year, right? But yeah. I feel like UConn as a whole, their program for the past 5 years, I mean, I feel like you could go back to like Ryan Boatwright and onwards. You just say, well, these guys they're learning, they're growing. Ryan Boatwright's probably like 24 right now. Yeah, Alterique Gilbert, he's a third-year man, right? I mean, at some point, you have to expect better.
Weird, UConn's got a guy. I honestly thought Ryan Boatwright was still there, but it's James Bouknight. So they got a lot of Knights over there, but it's probably pronounced differently. Whatever. But I don't want to sound like this old school mentality, not tucking in your shirt and all that, but it just shows individualistic personalities. Like, you're not playing as a team. Tuck your freaking shirt in.
I mean, it's very much a boomer thing to say. And I'm not going to say, okay, boomer, because that joke is already passed and it would make me in turn sound like a boomer.
I would have nailed that joke if the roles were reversed right now.
No, that's why you're a boomer. That's the point I'm making.
I am notoriously late to the joke.
And just pop culture things. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, I asked you about Despacito and you looked at me or texted me back like I had 3 heads or something.
It's a great song.
I know it is, but I was shocked that you were on it.
I find my lanes where I can get ahead of the game every once in a while. Like the song, and I know you want to switch to the next topic, but the Wyclef Jean song, "Some live for the bill, some kill for the bill." That one, I was on that before everyone. I literally discovered that song. I don't know how I did it.
You did.
I was on that. Wyclef and Akon. That one of my strongest accomplishments in the mid 2000s.
At one point, I think you self-described yourself as Irv Gotti
for that song.
I thought you had maybe one other. Maybe it was a Mraz song or something.
Oh, I could have been on a Mraz. Yeah. I was deep in Mraz back then.
Yeah. It took me a while to realize that his album, Mr. A to Z, was his last name.
Poetry.
Yeah, exactly. Earlier this week, two great games on Tuesday, and it gave me a shitload of anxiety. Let me tell you why. It was remote control stress, RCS. This is a new medical condition that I've now brought to the forefront here of college basketball fandom. DePaul and Villanova, and also Maryland versus Wisconsin. We discussed Maryland versus Wisconsin earlier in the program, but DePaul Villanova had an equally great finish. DePaul came charging back on the road at Nova to almost force overtime, but they ended up coming up short. But here's why this was RCS, remote control stress, is because this was the rare unicorn occasion where two games were within 1 point and they had the exact same amount of time left. I mean, there were stoppages at 9 seconds and 9 seconds in both games, and both games were pretty close to coming back from timeout. So I had to make a decision. I went for Brad Davison, and luckily I think there was an extra timeout in the DePaul Villanova game. But this was just a primer for the tournament, but I wasn't expecting it here in January.
Yeah, this has been something we've discussed from the beginning of the show when we first started this back in fall of 18, Father?
Yep.
Whatever that was. You got to have good clicker fingers. You got to be quick on the clicker. You got to be able to anticipate timeouts. You got to be able to have a feel for when the other game that you were just watching is leaving the timeout. You got to know how long commercials are. You got to know when to hop in and when to hop out. So in a situation like this, the ideal scenario, I'm not trying to be mean to you here, Father, but you got to get a system where you can be watching another game, at the very least on an iPad. Get a tablet. Wire into your cable system. Be able to keep up. You're going to have a little lag, so try to stay off Twitter as that's happening.
Can't do that, though. That's the thing.
I know you're a tweeting man. Not
a tweeting man, just a man who tweets.
Thank you for the correction. But you need to be able to bounce back, be everywhere at once. It's 2020 right now. All right? It's 2020. We are not limited to our living room. We got to be everywhere. You got to have boots on the ground here. You got to have boots on the ground over there. And that means being able to have a great clicker finger. That's the fundamentals of what we do right here. Being able to change the channel quickly. And again, boys and potentially girls, you got to be able to go from True TV to TNT in the snap of a finger. You got to have a feel for when to go back to CBS and whatever Jim Nantz is talking about. You got to know when to bounce up to TBS. This is what we're training for, all right? This is what the whole point of this is right now, is being ready for that. So you got to do it right now on ESPN2 and ESPNU. Going from Jimmy Dykes over to Dick Vitale or anyone like that. This is where you get your repetitions in. Reps.
See the man, see the ball type defense, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. I do have a setup. I have my work computer. To your point about switching back and forth, though, my previous cable provider, Cox, had this perfect feature. So when you click last, instead of going automatically to the last channel, it would bring up your last 10 channels.
Yeah. Comcast, Xfinity, they do that now too.
RCN doesn't have that, man. I'm going straight off the dome. I think I'm going to have to build a directory or something.
It's like you got like a hotel setup,
pretty much.
You're blindly going back to whatever the last channel was.
Well, I mean, no. Now, luckily, I've now started to build the memory of, I have like a Rolodex of the pertinent channels, and everyone makes the same tired ass joke every single time the tournament comes around is, oh, what channel's True TV on? I got to put that into my brain because I don't know True TV's channel off the top of my head.
Do you have the voice control? Like, can you push the little button, say put on this channel?
this is the most basic shit ever. Like, I got all the channels, but in terms of,
Do you have HD TV?
I do. I have HD TV, but in terms of functionality, in terms of user friendliness, RCN has, you know what, to put it in corporate speak, lot of opportunity. Lot of opportunity. I'm not going to say they suck. There's just a lot of opportunity.
Sounds horrible. I would expect that type of amenities in the cable package for like Mongolia or something. You're in Chicago. I mean, how can you not be able to preview what your 5 last channels were? I can do it for like my last 10 channels. So whenever I'm watching something I shouldn't be watching, like maybe a little girls trip for the 7th time this year, love that movie. We know I love that movie. Why is that populating again? You got to get it off the screen. So that's when you go to another channel like 5 times in a row and you accidentally push this one so you can clean out the history. Little tip for you.
Well, you know, this is just this is putting fur on my peaches right now, right? And to quote a man that we've already quoted today, those who take those who take the elevator, aka those who have the 10 previous channels, are looking for shortcuts. And at this level, there's no room for shortcuts. I'm taking the stairs. I'm memorizing the channel numbers.
Oh.
Me and Scott Cross. I might take Troy and
does that get you ready to run through a wall right there? It's like, what'd you just say, Coach?
Yeah, it does. I might take Troy and Jerome this upcoming year.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there.
I want to end with the Bluegrass State, Louisville. They're my toxic relationship, Father. That is, everyone's had a toxic relationship in the past where the sex is just so good, but you're just bad for each other. I've actually personally never had that, but you're just bad for each other. It's terrible. And if I were to liken it to a theater reference, it's the breakup with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston. And so it's Gary Grabowski, played by Vince Vaughn, and I am Brooke Myers, played by Jennifer Aniston. If you know the film, you know that they start out great, but over the course of time, you know, they're just bad for each other. Vince Vaughn is lazy. He's fat. He's a slob. He's disorganized. He's messy. Brooke, on the other hand, is making every single effort that she can to correct this relationship, to have people over, to be clean. And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm Brooke right now in my relationship with Louisville, because Louisville's playing nail biters against Pitt. They're going to the wire with Notre Dame. They're just playing sloppy. They're not putting in the effort that I feel like needs to be reciprocated for a guy that picked Jordan Nwora ACC Player of the Year, for a guy that has them winning the ACC title, for a guy that loves Chris Mack. This right now, me and Louisville, it's the breakup. Now, another reason why this is the breakup is because, you know, we're not going to end in a fiery death. I don't want it to be, like you had mentioned, it was another Vince Vaughn film with Isla Fisher. I don't want it to be a Jeremy Gray and I forget what Gloria. I don't want it to be that. I don't want to marry the broad. I'm not taking Louisville to win the whole thing, probably. But much like the breakup at the very end, they're cordial. I'm cordial with Louisville, but it's getting to a point where I might have to break up with them.
Within this analogy, metaphor, whatever it is right here, if I can play a role, can I play the role of Jennifer Aniston's brother? Come. Gary on the kick drum, come. Gary. Can I be that guy?
Yeah. I mean, I need some. You can be the brother, yes, because I need some sort of extra motivation for Louis.
I just want to be there observing the whole thing blow up in flames, because, you know, I haven't been supportive of Louisville all year, and I guess Louisville in this scenario is Vince Vaughn, Gary in the breakup, and in the movie, Jennifer Aniston's brother ends up fighting Gary, or hitting him, or getting in a little fight right there. So I wouldn't mind doing that, because I don't like Louisville. I don't like Gary. Gary on the kick drum, come. All right, I'm that guy.
This is good. I like that. Yeah, I mean, any sort of extra motivation that you can give. I guess it didn't motivate Gary. He just continued to be an asshole.
I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. I just don't like Louisville. So,
but this is just how I see it ending. I mean, I think Louisville's still going to win the ACC. I'm still sticking with them. Right now, we're probably at the part where they're blowing up at each other after dinner. They're still hashing it out. They haven't completely broken up just yet.
The team is a little soft for my liking. However, I was very against them calling them soft from the outset. I said Jordan Nwora is kind of a finesse guy. I still stand by that. I am impressed with Enoch on Louisville. Enoch's a ball player. He went into Lexington with big bucket after big bucket. Great little baby hook that he's got there. So there is a little bit more toughness in Louisville than I thought. However, I'm still off him.
I said Enoch is going to have to produce for them to be winning games. No Enoch, this team would be severely overrated at this point.
He's a ball player.
Sticking in the Bluegrass State, like I had mentioned, I want to make a bold prediction. Kentucky's one of my teams. I actually think they just went down to South Carolina on the road, where they seem to have crazy amount of trouble. But no, that doesn't mean my picks turn to shit. Kentucky's my boys. I love them. But I think Muscle Milk is going to beat them on Saturday at home in Arkansas. Muscle Milk secretly, quietly putting together a great season there at Arkansas, 13-2 as we speak.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just vintage Muscle Milk. Comes in, super excited, bringing his, he's a smaller energy guy, like really reinvigorate the program. They're probably going to have a good year. They're probably going to make the tournament, and then they're going to fall apart because he runs people into the ground. It's not a sustainable style, and then he's probably going to maybe it works out longer than it did at Nevada for him, but this plays right into his formula, into his playbook of hitting you early in the Muscle Milk tenure. I don't know how he's going to recruit. That's going to be a big thing for him because he's used to just doing it with transfers, but now he's at an institution that can actually allow him that has a pedigree associated with it. So we'll see how it works. I like Muscle Milk, but didn't like him last year, and I was right about that.
He really is the Tom Thibodeau of college coaching, huh? Just runs his guys into the ground.
I'm trying to think of a good theater example for him. Just like way too high, like a Rob Lowe in Parks and Rec.
Good looking guy too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like kind of just way too positive all the time. Like get out of my face, Rob Lowe / Muscle Milk. But probably if Rob Lowe was whatever his title was in that small Pawnee town, if Rob Lowe, city manager, if Rob Lowe moves to your city, I bet within that first year of Rob Lowe bringing his positivity and his energy, that city's going to do great. But then like 3 years later, that city, everyone's going to be like, all right, fucking guy over here making me take the stairs left and right. Why don't you slow down a little bit? I don't want to do that anymore. And it's going to revert back to the norm.
Rob Lowe and Ben Wyatt did pull them out of a bankruptcy, though. I mean, that's what Muscle Milk's trying to do there at Arkansas.
I don't know how bankrupt they were. Like Mike Anderson.
Oh, they were literally. No, I'm saying they were. Oh, Arkansas. I thought you were checking me on Parks and Rec.
No, I would never do that.
Thank you, Father. All right. Before we wrap this up, let's get a quick word from our guy, Zach, at the Barnburner Podcast Network. All right, Shark, let's end this with hugs and also, where am I? First, where am I? The floor is yours.
So this week's Where Am I? Everybody remembers this guy. We remember this guy because he performed. Oops, sorry, just burped right there. He performed at the highest stage. The championship game, nobody really knew who he was. It was in 2013. His name is Spike Albrecht. Obviously played for Michigan in that game. He lit it up, 17 points in that first half. However, they did go on to lose. No big deal. But the reason I wanted to bring up Spike Albrecht is because everyone knows after that he went on to Purdue as a grad transfer. He played for Purdue for a little bit. But where'd he go after that? If you were a betting man, you probably would have guessed he'd go into the Greg Paulus type coaching pipeline, which he actually had a cup of coffee doing at first. He did that for a little bit. He did it. I think it's his alma mater. It's in Massachusetts, the Northfield Mount Herman School. And I'm only going off his Twitter at this point. He's from Indiana, but he went to high school there. And then according to his Twitter, he was an assistant coach there for a little bit. But you know how we do these Where Am I's? We dig deeper. All right. Albrecht wasn't just always this guy that went right into coaching. He didn't go play overseas. Actually, he might have, but I didn't go that deep. I went deep to figure out where his career was. So I pulled him up on LinkedIn. And when you look at his LinkedIn, you can find Michael. That's his name on LinkedIn. Parentheses Spike. So he's kind of subtly hinting at all of us. It's me. It's me, guys. Albrecht. He's the distributor sales specialist at Abbott. He's been there for 11 months. So he started in March of 2019. He's also got the CEO founder of Get Better LLC, which seems like to be some type of basketball training, specific training, which is cool. But he's a sales specialist at Abbott. Now, Abbott, you gotta have to do a little bit more of a search, but it's a hospital and healthcare in Abbott Park, Illinois. They're a healthcare leader. They help people live more fully. I don't know what exactly he does. He's probably selling something for them specifically, but he's the kind of guy. I'm Spike Albrecht. I did this. Remember when the tournament game, I'd buy anything from him. I'd buy a stethoscope if that's what he's selling right now. But I wanted to see if he was actually marketing himself in that way. So I scrolled down. We all got LinkedIn's. I looked at his LinkedIn, and when he was at Michigan for accomplishments, I was on the dean's list. There was no honor rolls, no clubs. It said I was on the basketball team. I played in the Final Four in 2013. I won the Big Ten championship in 14, and I was the captain in 15 and 16. But he doesn't make reference to that first half, so he's humble. He's humble about not throwing himself out there, but he just knows that we're all going to remember. So that's what Spike Albrecht's been up to. Kind of a thorough LinkedIn page. I got a lot of insight from this, but
it's kind of nice that Spike Albrecht's not like somewhere in the finance world, just sitting in a cube.
Well, this could very much be a cube type scenario.
Oh, I just picture Spike in the field or something.
Well, I guess I don't know. I don't know enough about what Abbott does. You ever seen the movie Love and Other Drugs with Jake Gyllenhaal?
No.
You haven't seen that with Anne Hathaway?
No.
Kidding me? He's like running around the country selling Viagra, falls in love with Hathaway. Hathaway has cancer. Beautiful love story. Gyllenhaal was just kind of like this, boy toy, kind of a dick, womanizer type figure, and then Hathaway humbles him a little bit, but he's selling Viagra. It's the pharmaceutical world. But anyways, I'm kind of picturing that for Spike Albrecht right now.
I feel like a lot of pharmaceutical sales is done in the field. I mean, that's why I'm just picturing it.
I mean, but he could be a cube guy. He's either a cube guy or he's Jake Gyllenhaal selling Viagra.
Yeah. You know what he also needs to add to his LinkedIn is hollering at Kate Upton. I think right after that game, or maybe after they won their Final Four game, he tweeted at her trying to holler at Kate Upton, which was at that point pretty hilarious for a short little kid who's hit a bunch of shots to a supermodel of that standard. But now Kate Upton and Spike Albrecht, where are they?
Huh?
Glad we got it though.
That's the where am I. As always, if you guys have any people that we want to do a shout out to, a little mini investigation into, a little freshener about what they've been up to, please reach out. In the past, we've done, we've done Jai Lewis recently from George Mason,
Connor Atchley, Connor Tian. I'm a big Connor guy.
Subi gets the Connors. We've been all over the place. So we're finding as Pittsnoggle we hit recently.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the inaugural one?
I think it was Tian. No,
it was one that I did. I forgot who it was.
But yeah, if you have any recommendations, please reach out to us. Let's wrap this up now with hugs. I'll go ahead. My first hug, my only hug, I should say, is for Wyoming. Wyoming is winless in conference play. I think they're a dismal 5-13 or 5-14 now. But my hug goes to them because they almost beat Nevada 2 nights ago in Reno. And so this is kind of a hug where I'm also going to simultaneously shit on Steve Alford. But Wyoming played them very tough, played them incredibly well, down to the wire. They lost only by 1 point. I just feel for a team that is 5-13 and hasn't won a conference game just yet. It'll come at some point, I'd assume. But at the same time, Steve Alford, man. And we talked about Eric Musselman, what he's done with Arkansas. We already know what he did at Nevada, turning them into a top 10 team at 1 point. And Alford just comes in and completely undoes it. Now, you could make the argument that that's directly correlated with the loss of Jordan Caroline and the Martin brothers. Fine. But Steve Alford, not a good coach, was seconds away from losing to a winless conference team in Wyoming. So, again, my hug for Wyoming is probably going to be overshadowed with my disdain for Steve Alford, who's just toiling away in Reno after having a lengthy job at UCLA. That is my hug. Kind of an odd hug.
Inty on the hug right there. My hug is kind of a different type of hug. My hug's Blue Note Bourbon. What the hell, man? We need a new sponsor for the show. So if you want to come sponsor our show, I'd love to give you a hug. Free hugs. That's
Noteless. Yeah, we no longer with Blue Note, but at some point we got to try their bourbon. To be honest with you,
we're open to other bourbon. I like Jameson. If Jameson's listening to this right here, Bombay Sapphire. I'm a fan of that.
Isn't that gin?
That is gin. So I switched the type right on you. But if Mr. Jameson or Mr. Sapphire are listening, we got an opening at the show with your name on it.
Yep. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you again for listening. We will catch you next time on Theater and College Hoops.